Beneath the earth, beauty often hides terror. Some caves look like entrances to another world, glittering limestone, crystal clear waters, hidden chambers carved over millions of years. To adventurers, they are irresistible. To locals, they are warnings. And to rescuers, they are battlegrounds against time, darkness, and human fragility. Today, we journey into two caves separated by continents but bound by tragedy. One beneath the blue waters off Croatia's Šolta Island, the other deep inside the limestone hills of Arizona's Santa Rita Mountains. Both promised adventure, both delivered nightmares. In the Adriatic Sea, a diver would make a choice so unthinkable, it still haunts the diving community. Thousands of miles away, in the American desert, a young man would find himself broken at the bottom of a pit, his survival hanging by the strength of strangers. These are not tales of recklessness alone. They are about human limits tested in the silence of stone and water, where light dies quickly and every breath counts. And once you descend, there is only one truth. The cave does not care if you make it back. The island of Šolta, floating in the turquoise waters of the Adriatic Sea, doesn't look like a place where nightmares are born. Just a short ferry ride from Split, Croatia's second largest city, it feels like a paradise preserved. Rolling hills covered with olive groves, pebble beaches kissed by gentle waves, and the kind of water so clear it shimmers like glass. Tourists flock here to taste the island's famous honey, sip local wine, and swim in coves where sunlight dances on the seabed. But just south of the island, in a place called Poganica Bay, the sea conceals something darker. Beneath the surface lies an opening, a small, unassuming hole in the seabed that drops into a submerged cavern system. To the untrained eye, it's just another dive site. To those who know its history, it's something else entirely. A killer cave, a labyrinth of rock and water that has claimed diver after diver, its reputation whispered among locals with grim certainty. On September 10, 2002, 31-year-old Miroslav Kuka stood on the shore of Šolta with friends. They were young, curious, and restless, the kind of tourists who saw danger as part of the adventure. When one of them suggested a night dive, Miroslav didn't hesitate. The waters here were famous for their clarity, and to divers, even novice ones, the call of the cave was almost magnetic. By 9:15 p.m., they had convinced a boatman to take them out over Poganica Bay. Gear clinked in the darkness as tanks were strapped on, masks tightened, regulators tested. From above, the water looked like a sheet of polished obsidian. But just 10 meters down, a mouth waited. A narrow shaft in the limestone floor, the only entrance to the cave. The design of the cave itself was deceptively simple. Divers entered headfirst through the tight opening, emerging into a junction. To the left lay the shallow gallery, descending to 36 meters, a cul-de-sac of stone with no other exits. To the right stretched the deep gallery, plunging to 57 meters. At the top of that gallery, pressed against the ceiling, floated a fragile air pocket, thin and stale, a cruel illusion of safety. The cave's deadliness didn't come from its structure alone. Once past the entrance, light vanished completely. There was no natural glow, no guiding shimmer. It was pure blackness. Worse, the walls were coated in fine silt that erupted into clouds at the slightest touch. Even with a flashlight, the effect was like driving in heavy fog. Illumination only revealed the suffocating particles in front of you, not the way forward. For a diver, it was like being blindfolded in a maze. Miroslav descended first, his body cutting through the cold water, fins brushing against stone. He reached the junction, turned into the deep gallery, and followed it all the way down to the sandy bottom. For a moment, there was calm. He had made it to the limit, 57 meters beneath the surface. But the real danger began on the way back up. At the junction, Miroslav made a fatal mistake. Instead of swimming upward toward the exit, he veered into the shallow gallery, mistaking it for the way out. The walls closed in. Silt erupted. His visibility shrank to nothing. He thrashed forward, then circled back, disoriented. Panic crept in. Somewhere in the black, he found the junction again, only to repeat the same mistake, turning once more into the deep gallery. Minutes stretched into eternity. His air gauge fell towards zero. He clawed upward, feeling along the ceiling, until his hands touched the thin air pocket. For a flicker of hope, he surfaced into it, pressing his face against the rock as he sucked in stale oxygen. But it wasn't enough. He was still 40 to 50 meters below safety, his chest tightening, carbon dioxide burning through his body. And it was here, in that suffocating bubble, that Miroslav made his final choice. He knew what was coming. To drown meant thrashing, gasping, lungs filling with water. To him, there was only one other option. With grim clarity, he pulled the dive knife from his belt, pressed it against his chest, and drove it into his heart. It was quick. It was brutal. And when his body was later recovered, the autopsy confirmed the unthinkable. Miroslav had not drowned. He had chosen to end his own life rather than suffer the agony of suffocation. On the surface, his friends waited. 10 minutes passed, then 20, then an hour. Fear twisted into dread. Calls were made. Authorities dispatched rescue divers. Among them was 25-year-old Oliver Mirage, strong, capable, but inexperienced with this particular cave. He entered the same labyrinth, his flashlight slicing through black water. But just like Miroslav, he grew disoriented. He turned into the shallow gallery, then the deep, back and forth, oxygen dwindling with each frantic correction. His partner escaped. Oliver did not. 3 days later, both bodies were recovered. Miroslav and Oliver, strangers in life, were united in death, claimed by the same cave within hours of each other. Even today, locals warn against entering Poganika's cave. Signs are posted, divers whisper its name with respect, fear, and a hint of superstition. And yet, year after year, more attempt it, overconfident, unprepared, convinced they'll be the ones who make it back. Some do. Many don't, because the cave doesn't care. It only waits. Far from the turquoise waters of Croatia, another cave waited, this one hidden in the dry limestone hills of Arizona's Santa Rita Mountains. On the last day of 90, while much of the world prepared to celebrate New Year's Eve, 21-year-old Kevin Sears and his friend prepared for a different kind of adventure. They weren't professional cavers. They weren't equipped with helmets, maps, or specialized climbing gear. Instead, they wore jeans, sneakers, and short-sleeve shirts, clothes better suited for a casual hike than for the unforgiving labyrinth beneath the desert. Slung over Kevin's shoulder was a coil of rope, 50 feet of polypropylene, thin, abrasive, and meant to aid their descent into a vertical shaft ominously known as the loop pit. Each carried a flashlight. That was it. By late morning, they ducked into the upper entrance of Agua Caliente Cave, a narrow fissure in the hillside just large enough for a body to squeeze through. The cave was known among locals as a tricky system, hot, humid, with twisting passages that looped back on themselves. It wasn't the kind of place you wandered into casually, but Kevin and his friend were young, restless, and perhaps too confident in their memory of a previous visit. Crawling through low tunnels, their arms and legs scraped by jagged stone, they descended deeper. The air inside was still, heavy with the smell of dust and limestone. Their voices echoed back at them in strange, distorted tones, the cave already playing tricks on their sense of direction. After 8 minutes, they reached the loop pit. The opening yawned before them, a 40-foot vertical drop disappearing into blackness. Inexperienced and unequipped with proper rappelling gear, the young men used their hands, lowering themselves rope over rope in the most dangerous way possible. Kevin gripped the line, inching downward as fibers bit into his palms, sweat slickening his skin. His friend followed, their flashlight beams jittering wildly across the stone walls. Against the odds, they reached the bottom safely. From there, they pressed on. Their goal was to complete the cave's circular route, known simply as the Loop, by traveling clockwise and exiting through a lower entrance. Hours passed as they crawled, stooped, and stumbled through tight tunnels that opened into rooms just large enough to stand upright. Finally, they reached a place cavers called the White Sand Room, a chamber carpeted with pale sediment that looked like a tiny hidden beach. But as they searched for the passage they remembered, unease crept in. Every tunnel looked the same. Every formation mirrored the last. They doubled back, tried another crevice, then another. Minutes bled into an hour. Their flashlights, so bright when they entered, now dimmed at the edges as batteries drained. Anxiety twisted into panic. They were lost. Finally, they gave up the loop. Their only chance was to return to the loop pit and climb out the way they came. At the base of the pit, Kevin took the rope first. He began climbing, hand over hand, feet scraping against the rock. Near the top, he encountered a treacherous obstacle, a smooth section of flowstone, polished by thousands of years of mineral water. His sneakers, coated in dust, found no grip. For one suspended moment, he clung by his arms alone. Then his strength gave way. The fall lasted seconds. The landing was brutal. Air rushed from his lungs as he hit the stone floor. Dazed, in pain, but alive, he forced himself back to his feet. He would try again. With trembling arms, Kevin climbed once more, every muscle burning. Again, the flowstone betrayed him. His feet slipped, his body twisted, and this time the impact was catastrophic. A searing pain tore through his hip and leg. He screamed, clutching at his side. Something deep inside had snapped. His femur, perhaps his pelvis, bones built to carry weight shattered under the fall. He couldn't stand. He couldn't climb. He was trapped. His friend, terrified but determined, made the hardest choice of his life, to leave Kevin in the darkness and go for help. Climbing the rope alone, scraping his arms raw, he clawed his way up, burst into daylight, and stumbled across miles of rugged desert to find a phone. Hours passed before rescue was finally set in motion. By evening, members of the Southern Arizona Rescue Association, seasoned cavers and volunteers, arrived. They descended into the cave carrying medical gear, ropes, and stretchers. They found Kevin conscious but pale, his body racked with pain. His flashlight was dead, the cave around him absolute blackness. He had lain there for hours, broken and alone. Stabilizing him was only the beginning. Extraction required rigging multiple hauling systems, pulleys, belays, and brute force. The rescuers moved him inch by inch through impossible squeezes, up jagged shafts, across angled slides with names like the beer can. Every obstacle meant another battle with ropes, rock, and exhaustion. By 2 a.m. on New Year's Day, nearly 12 hours after his fall, Kevin Sears emerged from Agua Caliente cave on a stretcher. The night air was freezing, his body battered and bruised. And yet, by some miracle, his bones were intact. Doctors later confirmed he had no fractures, only contusions and deep muscle trauma. Against the odds, he had survived. But his ordeal became a grim reminder. Caves demand respect. In darkness, there is no mercy. One mistake can turn adventure into tragedy, celebration into mourning. Kevin Sears lived to tell the tale. Many others, in caves around the world, were not so fortunate. 2 stories, 2 continents, 2 young men who entered caves with very different intentions and nearly opposite outcomes. One descended beneath the Adriatic Sea and never came back. The other fell, shattered, but lived to see daylight again. Yet when you look closely, the threads that connect them are unmistakable. Caves, whether underwater or underground, share the same cruel trick. They disguise danger as beauty. From the surface, Xolta's Pogonica Bay looked like paradise. From the hillside above Tucson, Agua Caliente Cave seemed like nothing more than a curious crack in the limestone. To the casual eye, neither gave away the truth, that once you crossed their threshold, you were no longer in control. Both Miroslav Kukis and Kevin Sears underestimated that truth. Miroslav was drawn by the siren song of clear water and the thrill of testing himself in a cave whispered about by divers. Kevin was drawn by youthful confidence, believing his memory and a rope would be enough to conquer a vertical pit. Neither man entered recklessly in his own mind. They prepared in the way they thought sufficient. But caves are not measured by what you think is enough. They are measured by what is actually required. And both men learned that lesson too late. Inside Xolta's underwater labyrinth, Miroslav discovered the nightmare of zero visibility. A world where every kick stirred suffocating silt, where light turned against you, revealing only a blizzard of particles. The galleries twisted, deceived, and swallowed his sense of direction. In the end, it wasn't a lack of courage that doomed him. It was the environment itself, engineered over millennia to trap anything that wandered inside. Inside Agua Caliente, Kevin found himself betrayed not by darkness alone, but by his own body. Fatigue, sweat, and sneakers slipping on flowstone transformed a climb into a death trap. Twice he tried, twice he fell. And when the second fall left him writhing on the stone floor, pain exploding through his hip and leg, the cave seemed to have won. His body was broken, his light was dying, and outside, daylight was slipping away. The difference was not in their courage, it was in their circumstances. Miroslav was alone in that final pocket of air. His friends had escaped, but no one could reach him in time. The pocket gave him a few minutes, maybe less, to confront the inevitable. And in that suspended eternity, he made a choice most divers can barely comprehend. He ended his own life, stabbing his heart before the water could claim his lungs. To some, it was despair. To others, it was control, a final act of agency in a place designed to strip it away. Kevin, on the other hand, was not left alone. His friend had the willpower to climb out, to run miles for help, to summon strangers willing to crawl into the earth for him. For hours, Kevin endured agony in the blackness. But when rescuers arrived, he had something Miroslav never did. A lifeline, where one diver's story ended in silence. The others became a story of human endurance and rescue against impossible odds. Yet even Kevin's survival carries its own lesson. Doctors were astonished that his bones weren't shattered. By all rights, the second fall should have left him crippled, or worse. Survival, in caves, is often not skill alone. It is a lottery. One misstep, one loose stone, one broken flashlight, and luck runs out. That is the paradox of caves. They do not kill out of malice, nor do they spare out of mercy. They simply exist, waiting, indifferent, unchanging. To some, they offer wonder. To others, they offer death. And the line between the two is often thinner than a single breath. For the rescuers who pulled Kevin Sears out on New Year's Day, there was triumph in the night air, a rare victory over the stone. But for the divers who later recovered Miroslav and Oliver from the Croatian abyss, there was only grief, a reminder that sometimes, even preparation and teamwork aren't enough. These stories aren't just about caves, they're about us. They reveal the human desire to explore, to test boundaries, to push into places that were never meant for us. They reveal our fragility, our mistakes, and sometimes our refusal to accept defeat even when the cave itself seems determined to keep us. And in that way, Miroslav and Kevin are not opposites. They are mirrors, two men who stepped into silence, two men who felt time stretch thin inside stone, two men who came face to face with the same question. When the cave decides, what will you do? At the edge of every cave, whether a sunlit entrance in the Arizona desert or a hidden hole beneath the Adriatic Sea, there is a boundary few people recognize. It's not the line between light and dark, or even between air and stone. It's the line between control and surrender. On one side of that line, the world feels manageable, equipment works, plans hold, strength answers every challenge. On the other side, none of that matters. In the abyss, a flashlight beam dies after a few feet. Ropes betray the grip of tired hands. Oxygen runs out, and in that moment, a diver or caver realizes the truth. The cave does not care who you are. Miroslav Kukas discovered that truth in the suffocating blackness of Poganica Bay. A tourist on holiday, he had not entered the water with reckless arrogance, but with curiosity, drawn by the same wonder that pulls thousands of divers toward hidden caverns each year. And yet, in the still waters of the Adriatic, he faced an ancient trap. His air bled away, his options vanished, and in the end, he took the only control left to him, choosing a swift end over the drowning that awaited. Kevin Sears faced the same indifference in Agua Caliente Cave. His mistakes were human, his equipment minimal, his climbs desperate. Twice the earth dropped him onto stone. Twice he felt the cave close its hand around him. And yet, through sheer endurance, the loyalty of a friend, and the skill of strangers who fought hour after hour in the dark, Kevin returned to daylight. By all logic, he should not have walked away. But survival underground has never followed logic. What connects these two stories is not the caves themselves, separated by thousands of miles and oceans, but the lesson they whisper. Adventure does not equal safety. The ocean doesn't grant mercy. The rock doesn't bend to courage. Beneath the surface, nature strips away illusion and leaves only raw truth. For rescuers, the lesson is even sharper. The Southern Arizona Rescue Association that saved Kevin knows the odds they fought against that night. Every haul on the rope, every echoing shout through stone passages, every bead of sweat spent in the cold was a rebellion against inevitability. For the Croatian divers who pulled Miroslav and Oliver's bodies from the labyrinth, there was no triumph, only the silent confirmation that sometimes skill and strength cannot rewrite the ending. But perhaps the most haunting reflection is this. Miroslav and Kevin stepped into those caves with the same unspoken belief that all explorers carry. I will make it back. That belief sustains every climber on a mountain, every diver in a shaft of water, every caver crawling into the unknown. Without it, no one would ever leave the surface. Yet belief is fragile. One wrong turn, one fall, one breath too many, and the abyss reminds you how small you truly are. So, why do we keep going back? Why, after countless tragedies, do humans still descend into the places that kill so many? The answer lies not in recklessness, but in something older, our instinct to push against boundaries. Caves are the Earth's most ancient secrets, carved before our species even existed. To enter them is to trespass into time itself, to touch a silence that has waited for millions of years. And for some, that pull is irresistible, no matter the risk. For Miroslav, that risk became final. For Kevin, it became a story of survival etched into rescue annals. For us, listening now, it becomes a reminder, not of death alone, but of the humility demanded when stepping beyond safety. The Adriatic cave still waits in the blue waters off Sholta. Agua Caliente still breathes beneath Arizona's hills. Neither has changed, neither will. They are patient, indifferent, and eternal. And somewhere, even now, another diver, another caver, is standing at the threshold, tightening a mask strap or testing a rope, convinced they will be the one to return. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Because in the end, the cave does not bargain. It does not pity. It does not remember. It only waits. If stories like these kept you on the edge, don't forget to subscribe and join us as we uncover more chilling journeys into the unknown. Your next story might be even darker than this one.